Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Travis.
Well, today we're going to be doing our previews for NFL Week 3 of the 2017 season. Travis, what's the first matchup for this week?
Yeah, the first matchup is going to be the Steelers versus the Bears. And a few things to look out for in this matchup is last week the Steelers, they came off a good win versus a tough Minnesota Vikings defense. Going to this week, not playing as good a defense in the Bears, but this could be a potential trap game. The Steelers have been sometimes they've played down to their opponents before in the past, so this will be an interesting game. I'm looking forward to see how the Bears rebound after their bad performance against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it was an awful performance for the Bears last week against the Buccaneers. Mike Lennon had 3 turnovers in the first half, which is something that he was brought in to kind of help with as a guy that can manage the game. It was just an awful game all around for the Bears. So at home, I'm interested in seeing if they can kind of bounce back and take care of the ball and really establish the run game. That's really what they need to do in order to really succeed because they have a pretty good defense. They've played well so far in the past 2 weeks against 2 really good offenses in the Falcons and Buccaneers. So they're gonna be on their top game right here in order to steal a win here, especially on offense with the running game. For the Steelers, really, I mean, we talk about that offense, how it's really starting to get back in shape with Le'Veon Bell back, not Marcus Wheaton, but Martavis Bryant back, making plays last week. But really, the defense has been very underrated so far. They've had a lot of sacks, I believe 9 sacks so far. T.J. Watt's really made a big name for himself so far in his rookie season.
Yeah, T.J. Watt, he had a great week 1, and you got guys like Ryan Shazier and Bud Dupree, guys who are high draft picks for the Steelers. They're expecting big things from them this year. I think this will be a little closer game than most people think, mainly because if you know the Steelers, they don't perform as well on the road as they do at home. But for me, I'm going to have to go with the Steelers on this one.
I agree with you. I think, still the Steelers have way too much talent for the Bears to handle in this one. Could be a potential trap game, but I'm going to go with the Steelers on this one. I'm interested in seeing, though, if the Bears get down early and down by a lot, will they turn to Mitch Trubisky in this one? Keep a lookout for that. But moving on, let's go to the next game on our list, Ravens versus the Jaguars. This could be a very big defensive battle. These are 2 defenses that are really loaded right now. The Ravens defense in particular, they've been absolutely dominant. They've had at least 4 interceptions in both games this season, which is just insane. 10 turnovers total in the first 2 games.
Yeah, that's incredible numbers they've put up. And, with the Jaguars, they got a stacked front four, Calais Campbell and Dante Fowler Jr. And this could be just a really low-scoring game, tough football game. For the Ravens, their passing attack really hasn't been that big this year. And they're going to be going up against 2 really good young corners in A.J. Boye and Jalen Ramsey. I think this is going to be just a really low-scoring game. And for really, I say the Ravens' passing attack hasn't been on. The Jaguars' passing attack has been even worse, which is really hard to say. Blake Bortles has just severely regressed from his great rookie year. And for me, I think the Ravens, they're going to create more turnovers this game. Bortles is really turnover prone, and I think they're going to come away with this game.
Yeah, I agree. The Ravens defense is too good for a guy like Bortles, who's really prone to turn over the football. The Jaguars really need production from that passing game in order to even have a chance in this one, even though they're at home. You can see in their game plan the last 2 weeks that they're doing everything they can to make sure that Bortles does not pass the ball. They've been driving Leonard Fournette into the ground, basically. But, yeah, I agree. I'm going to take the Ravens on this one.
Yeah, I think this game's interesting because they're both 2 teams that rely on their running game, and both their defenses are really good at stopping the run. So That's going to be interesting. But moving on to the next matchup, we got the Broncos versus the Bills. As we saw last week, the Broncos just decimated the Dallas Cowboys, really shutting down Zeke in that running game. And they're going up against a Bills team that's kind of just in the middle of a rebuild. They got rid of Sammy Watkins, who killed it on Thursday night. So that's got to hurt for Bills fans. But the Broncos' offense has been surprisingly really good for them so far.
Yeah, Trevor Siemian's looked really sharp so far. He had 4 touchdowns last week against, in that week in the game for him. I'm not really picking up who they played last week. I forgot already. Moving on to week 3, but he's been looking really good so far this season. I'm interested in seeing how their run game, if they can continue to play well in the running game. Marcel Darius for the Bills might not be playing in this one. So that'll be interesting to see. He's been a really dominant force at defensive tackle for the Bills. But for the Bills, speaking of their offense, they've really struggled so far to find an identity this season.
Yes, I mean, they've already struggled so far, and I think this is going to be a really, really ugly game for them offensively. They're going up against one of the best defenses, and we all know the Bills. They try to give LaShawn McCoy the ball as much as they can, and the Broncos showed everyone that they could stop the run. So in this game, the Broncos are going to load up the box against them and try to make Tyrod Taylor beat them through the air against the no-fly zone. I don't think he's going to get it done. I have the Broncos winning this game.
Yeah, I agree with the Broncos winning this game. Their defense is too much for the Bills, who, they're going to rely on that running game. But the Broncos have shown this so far this season that they're pretty stout in the running game so far on defense. Let's move on to the next game on our list. Falcons-Lions. This could be a very good game. But I got to say, what Super Bowl hangover are we talking about here? The Falcons look like maybe the best team in the NFC. I mean, they're a clear cut so far above any other team so far in the NFC.
Yeah, a lot of the NFC team powerhouses have been looking really bad, like the Seahawks, the Cardinals, the Packers looked awful last week. And besides week 1 versus the Bears, the Falcons look right back on track to be at the top of the NFC. I think this game is going to be a shootout between two good friends, Matt Ryan and Matt Stafford. If you got any fantasy players for these teams, you're starting them this week because it's just going to be a shootout.
Yeah, I gotta say though, the Lions' defense has looked good so far. I mean, they've only played some pretty bad offenses so far in the Cardinals and Giants, who have really underachieved, I think, so far. But can have that continue against the Falcons' offense that looks like it's starting to click again?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they haven't gone up against a guy named Julio Jones, who's arguably the best wide receiver in the league. But I'm not going to discredit the Lions. We've kind of said, their fourth quarter comes back, so they can't sustain it. They've proved us wrong in the past. So I can't really count them out, but I think the Falcons just have a little too much firepower, and I'm going to have to go with them in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Falcons in this one too. I think the Lions, what I like about what the Lions are doing, they're trying to establish the run a lot more this season. But against the Falcons, if they can't get that running game to get going early, it could put them down in a hole early on against this Falcons offense that is just way too explosive.
Yeah, well, moving on to the next matchup, this could be one of the uglier games of the week. We got the Browns versus the Colts, who we all know don't have Andrew Luck. It's going to be Jacoby Brissett. So I'm going to ask you this question. With Luck out, can Brissett lead the Colts to a much-needed game, Week 3 victory?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I mean, he's only it's the second week of being in this offense, second to third week if you're counting the practice time he had in week 1. So I'm not sure if he's got everything down to really be good in this offense. He's got a lot of talent and potential, though, to maybe pull off a pretty big game for them. But this Browns defense, they're getting Myles Garrett back for this game. So this is going to be the rookie debut for Myles Garrett. Exciting to see that. That could add a lot of juice to the Browns pass rush. Their defense hasn't been that bad, actually, I think, this season.
Yeah, they've been doing all right. And without Myles Garrett, who's about, like you said, is about to make his debut, the offense has looked pretty decent. I think Kaiser is going to have a really big week against the Colts, who just have a terrible defense. And also, they've kind of struggled to get Isaiah Crowell running the ball. I think he's going to get going this week against that bad defense. For me, I have the Browns winning this game. I think they're more talented across the board than the Colts are, mainly because Andrew Luck, since he's been out, it's just shown how bad this Colts team has been.
Yeah, it's becoming pretty clear now that Andrew Luck just does so much for this Colts organization overall. I'm interested in seeing if Kaiser can bounce back after having a rough week, which, was bound to happen as a rookie quarterback. He had 3 interceptions last week. Left the game for a bit due to injury, but, the Ravens are a much tougher defense than the Colts. So I'm taking the Browns in this one on the road, going into Indy to pull off this win. But moving on, we're going to Buccaneers versus the Vikings. This could be a very good game, but Sam Bradford has just been confirmed to be out for this one, quarterback for the Vikings, which makes it pretty tough for a Vikings team that, they're going against a Buccaneers team that is ready and loaded, I think.
Yeah, this is a huge loss for the Vikings as he played so well in week 1. And we just saw what the Vikings offense looked like in week 2 under Casey Keenum. It just looked like a completely different team. And I don't think they can get this game done without Sam Bradford. Like you said, the Buccaneers, they're young, they're hungry, and they got great defensive players like Quan Alexander, Gerald McCoy, and Levante David. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game, though, just because the Vikings defense is so good. It's a classic defense versus offense. But I think the Bucs are going to do just enough to squeak out a close win.
Yeah, watch out for TJ Ward, too, for the Buccaneers. He's made a pretty big impact for that defense at the strong safety position. I'm actually going to take the Vikings on this one, but I'm going to tell you what. Jameis Winston, he didn't have any turnovers last week against the Bears, but he's been shown to be pretty turnover-prone in the past. I'm not sure if he's really been able to improve on that or if he just managed, a Bears team that had a really bad game overall. And the Vikings, we know, they have a great defense. They're really good at turning the ball over. So, maybe Jameis Winston throws a few turnovers in this one. It swings it in the Vikings' way, and they can pull off, a really ugly upset here, even though they're at home. I'm going to take the Vikings in, a low-scoring game here.
Yeah, the only reason I don't have the Vikings winning is because I just don't trust Casey Keenum. And really, the only way the Vikings are going to win is if they create a few turnovers from Jameis, and they basically have to hold the Buccaneers under 17 points, which I think that offense is just a little too high-powered, and they're just not going to be able to move the ball in offense. Without their starting quarterback, they just look terrible. But moving on to the next matchup, we got the Texans versus the Patriots. And the Patriots, man, people were like, what happened? Week 1, they lost to the Chiefs. They're supposed to go 16-0. And Tom Brady came back week 2. He's like, I'm not done. He carved up the Saints defense, and they're looking like a Super Bowl contender again.
Well, I said it in our, our recap for the Chiefs and Patriots game that every single time the Patriots have lost week 1 in the Bill Belichick era, they go on to win the Super Bowl. So I wasn't really panicking. I kind of saw this coming, especially against the Saints defense that is still, working out the kinks to get better. They're still one of the worst defenses in the league. For the Texans, it's officially Deshaun Watson's time as he gets his second start. And I'm really interested in seeing how he can do against a Bill Belichick run defense. As we know, Bill Belichick is really good at really disguising his defenses and really fooling even the most veteran quarterbacks. Peyton Manning, we saw in the past, in his early days, had a lot of trouble against Patriots defenses. This Patriots defense, though, has kind of struggled a bit so far this season. Can they kind of, put it all together against a rookie quarterback who's still, finding his way in the NFL?
Yeah, I think they can. Statistically, rookie quarterbacks have done absolutely horrible versus Belichick defenses. I don't think Watson's going to do terrible, but they don't have a great offensive line, so they're going to be getting lots of pressure in his face. They're going to be disguising defenses, like you said, and it's like, hey, rookie, welcome to the NFL. You got to go up against Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Good luck with that one.
Yeah, it's not an easy task to ask of anybody. I think Watson's going to really struggle in this one. One of my, big gripes about him coming out of college, I thought it would take some time for him to really get reading defenses because that wasn't something he wasn't really accustomed to at Clemson. He was more of a one-read quarterback in college, which a lot of these guys are now. But especially against the Patriots defense that are really going to do a good job of disguising things. I think it's going to be a rough week for Watson. And like we said, that offensive line is just not very good yet, so that might create some issues here. So I'm going to take the Patriots in this one. It might not be too close, though. I think Tom Brady and that Patriots offense, they've done a really good job of really not really exposing this Texas defense, but really they've done a good job of figuring them out over the past few years.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you just said. I also have the Patriots winning, and they looked really sharp in week 2. I think they're going to look sharp this week. I think they're going to run up the scoreboard on them.
Well, moving on, we're going to another AFC East game here. Dolphins versus the Jets. Surprisingly, one of the things I've kind of seen that's kind of like really surprised me this year is the Jets. Their strength going into the season was their defensive line, and they've really struggled against the run. I thought that was going to be the only thing that was really a strength for them this year, and it really hasn't been that way. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they can do against, Jay Ajayi and that Miami Dolphins running game that looks like it's been running on all cylinders so far.
Yeah, I mean, they got defensive linemen like Muhammad Wilkerson and Leonard Williams. And I think, playing for this Jets organization, it's kind of been tough for them to go out and, you think, how's it hard to give 100%? Well, when you're on a football team this bad, it's just really hard to get your head on straight. So, Like you said, I'm really surprised. I thought this was going to be their strong point in the defense. It has not. But one thing I'm looking forward to this game is how will Cutler build on his Week 1 performance? I think he looked pretty good in his first action for Miami. He targeted Devontae Parker a lot. I think they're going to be a really good duo.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing that too. Like we kind of talked about early on in some of our videos, Jay Cutler and Adam Gase, they have a really good connection, and they seem to have that going for them this year. And against a Jets defense that has kind of a weak secondary and all the weapons that the Dolphins have, I think this could be a pretty solid week for Cutler if he can kind of build off of what he did last week. They're probably not going to ask him to do very much. They're going to run the ball and probably have him do a lot of checkdowns, game manager type stuff, hit the big play every once in a while. That's all they're going to ask him to do in this one. So this kind of leads me to believe that, again, the Miami Dolphins are going to win this one against a Jets team that they don't really have an offense either. So, I mean, the Jets is just really bad for them. I'm taking the Dolphins.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. I'm going to take the Dolphins in this one. And moving on to the next matchup, this is going to be probably one of the best matchups of the week, the NFC East showdown between the Giants and the Eagles. And I honestly am not sure what to expect on this one. I know the New York Giants offensive line has been terrible, and Brandon Marshall has just been a complete disappointment for the Giants. But they know each other more than anyone else in the NFL. They play each other twice a year. And the Giants, they have their backs up against the wall going 0-2. This is basically a must-win game for them in Week 3.
Yeah, this is just one of those wacky rivalries where you just don't know what's going to happen. No matter how bad or good the teams are, it always seems to be a competitive game. And we've seen some of the weirdest stuff happen. It's just Giants-Eagles. It's a weird rivalry. Stuff happens that is just not expected at all. Like the miracle of the Meadowlands, we've had 2 of them. This one going in Philadelphia. You never know what's going to happen. So some matchups for me to look out for in this one. Carson Wentz, he's starting to look a little bit more comfortable with some of his weapons. He has an Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, LeGarrette Blount at running back. It seems like that offense is starting to get clicking. He had a pretty decent week last week against a very good Chiefs defense.
Yeah, they're starting to look more like a cohesive unit. One thing I'm going to be looking out for is, can the Giants slow down the Eagles' pass rush? And to put it blatantly, no. I don't think they're going to be able to. That front 7 for the Eagles is their best part of their defense. I think they're going to be getting tons of pressure on Eli Manning. With that said, though, surprisingly, like we said, it's a wacky rivalry. I'm going to have to go with the Giants on this one just because they're 0-2. This is a must-win for them. I think they're going to come out determined to get a W.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Eagles on this one. Even though it's a wacky rivalry, I kind of wanted to take the Giants in this one. Logic's telling me that, there's no way the Giants can slow down that Eagles pass rush. That front 4 for the Eagles is just nasty. And Jim Schwartz, the defensive coordinator for the Eagles, he does a really good job with these guys, getting their motors up. I'm taking the Eagles in this one. Moving on, let's go to Saints-Panthers. This is an interesting one. It's kind of classic offenses versus defense here. And despite the Panthers being 2-0, I kind of feel like they've both been ugly wins for them. Cam Newton's kind of still struggled in the passing game so far.
Yeah, he's definitely been struggling in the passing game, and they just lost their top receiving threat in Greg Olsen to a broken foot. So this is a huge loss for offense that has really been struggling to find their identity. Luckily for them, though, they're going up against a really, really bad Saints defense. So for me, I think that they'll be able to win this game based off of how good the Panthers defense has been. They've held their first 2 opponents to only 3 points each, which is really good. And what do you think for this game?
Yeah, for me, the Panthers, it all starts with if they can involve Christian McCaffrey more. We've been kind of hearing it all offseason that the Panthers, they love Christian McCaffrey all throughout the draft process. And, they expected him to be kind of this extra weapon for Cam Newton to kind of extend his career and help him out. We haven't seen it so far. They kind of used him. They tried to use him a bit, and it just hasn't really added, quite as much production as maybe they hoped for. But I think he might be ready to break out against the Saints defense. And it's still terrible still. Drew Brees has got to feel awful just being a one-man wrecking crew for them and still not getting it done. Another thing for the Saints to kind of look out for is, what can they get out of Adrian Peterson? They really don't seem to know what they're going to be able to use him for. It's kind of interesting to see what they'll do here, but I think they kind of figure it out against the Panthers here. I'm taking the Saints in this one. I still feel like Cam Newton's going to have his struggles, which will help out the Saints defense have a bit of a better week this week.
Yeah, well, talking about Adrian Peterson, you asked what kind of impact he's going to have on this game. He's not going to have an impact. That run defense for Carolina is just really good. You got Kuechly and Thomas Davis. And when they signed Adrian Peterson, it really just didn't make sense. They had Mark Ingram. They're a passing offense. And it's just like he hasn't been on the field a lot. And when he's on the field, everyone knows you're going to hand him the ball. So it doesn't really make much sense. I got the Panthers in this one. I think they're going to go 3-0. But moving on to the next matchup, this is an interesting matchup for me. We got the Seahawks versus the Titans.
Yeah, it's very interesting. The Titans are a team on the rise, while the Seahawks, they're one of the NFC powerhouses, but they've really looked very vulnerable this season so far. And it all starts with that offensive line, which is it's just been straight up awful so far. I mean, they couldn't do anything against the Packers defense. We're pretty suspect on so far, and they couldn't do anything against the 49ers defense. They gave up 41 points to the Rams on Thursday Night Football. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if the Titans can kind of take advantage of that and kind of get to Russell Wilson here in the passing game.
Yeah, I think they're going to be able to get to Wilson. They got guys like Brian Arakpo and Jarrell Casey, who are two really good defenders. One thing for me to watch out in this game is, can the Titans run the ball versus Seahawks defense? And for me, I think they're going to have really good success. Now, last week versus the 49ers, Carlos Hyde just ran all over the Seahawks defense, which doesn't make any sense. So I think the Titans have a lot better running game, a lot better offensive line. And I've been hearing that DeMarco Murray, he's kind of questionable for this game. So I think if Derrick Henry comes in, this could be his breakout debut to the NFL.
Yeah, quite honestly, I wouldn't see any bit of a drop-off between Derrick Henry or DeMarco Murray. I think either way, the Titans are pretty set in their running back situation here. I think it's going to be an old-school, run-the-ball, low-scoring affair in this one, which has kind of been the case for every single Seattle game so far this season. But I'm going to take the Titans in this one. I think they're going to win the battle in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And I think at home, it just works out in their favor.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on this one. I'm also going to take the Titans in this matchup.
Yeah, well, moving on, we're going to go Bengals and Packers here, where I think the story for this one is Andy Dalton and that Bengals offense. It's been putrid so far this season.
They've looked absolutely terrible. They just fired their offensive coordinator. That's a move to really save Marvin Lewis's job, because if that doesn't work out, he's gone after this season. They've just been bad. But this could be an interesting matchup because in the past, the Bengals have really kind of given Aaron Rodgers and the Packers struggles. And I think for this game, they got A.J. Green on the outside, and the Packers have proven they cannot stop elite wide receivers on the outside. So I think he's going to have a big game. I think this could be potentially a high-scoring game, even though that the Bengals have been looking terrible on offense. With Packers, Nick Perry's not going to play. Mike Daniels was hurt last week. I'm not sure if he's going to play or not. But what are some things for you that you're looking forward in this game?
Well, the Packers, I mean, they're kind of looking to rebound, and they kind of got, kind of embarrassed last week against a Falcons team that is loaded. They're going up against the Bengals team, like you said, they kind of had their struggles with. I mean, they've been able to beat them most of the time. But the Bengals seem to do a really good job of making, Aaron Rodgers struggle a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see whether that'll happen. That Bengals defense is still very good. Geno Atkins is an absolute beast out there, and he's been showing it so far this season. But I'm still going to take the Packers in this one. They're at Lambeau Field. I think Aaron Rodgers has a bounce-back performance, has a big game. I think the defense, I still don't trust Andy Dalton in offense. Maybe firing their offensive corner can kind of light a fire under them, but I don't see it so far.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to also go with Green Bay. You just don't see too many road teams coming in and beating the Packers at Lambeau, and especially for a Bengals team that has just looked terrible through 2 weeks. I'm going to have to go with Green Bay on this one. But moving on to the next matchup, we got the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Chargers, and this is a game that could be a potential upset.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued with this game. Obviously, the Chiefs, they look like maybe the best team in football so far, at least the most complete team so far. But the Chargers, I mean, they're probably the best bad team in the league over the past couple of years. I mean, it's just insane, like, how many close games they've been in. And even this year, they started it where the first 2 games, it comes down to the last-second kick, and they miss it twice. And I mean, they've been in two very close games against two quality opponents and haven't been able to close it out. It just speaks to how much talent they got on this team. But for whatever reason, they just haven't been able to put it all together for 4 quarters and pull out a victory here. But at home, I think they might have a chance to do that here. Even though the Chiefs, I just love everything about the Chiefs so far this season. I might have to go with the Chargers here just because they're such a talented team. It's a divisional game. I think maybe they pull off this upset here.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs on this one. Like you said, they've looked like the best team in the football through the first 2 weeks, and I think that Kansas City Chiefs defense is really going to shut down the Chargers offense. You know, they can stop the running game, and I think they're going to be able, with Marcus Peters and Justin Houston's going to be able to get lots of pressure on Phillip Rivers, and they don't have Mike Williams on the Chargers. He still has not played yet, and I think Marcus Peters will be able to slow down Keenan Allen. So if you have Keenan Allen, that's not a guy I'm looking forward to playing this week. But I think for the Chargers, if they have any success, they're going to be throwing lots to the running backs. They're going to have to involve Hunter Henry and Antonio Gates in this matchup. But for me, the Chiefs have just looked too dynamic. I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs on this one. But moving on to the Sunday night matchup, we got the Oakland Raiders versus the Washington Redskins. One thing for me I'm going to be looking forward is, can the Redskins continue to prove on offense?
Yeah, we knew with going into this season that with all the new weapons that they have at their disposal, that it might take some time for Kirk Cousins, that offense, to really get going. But it looks like they're starting to get their chemistry a little bit over the past couple of weeks. They showed a big improvement against the Rams, pulling off the victory there. My question is, will they be able to sustain that against a Raiders team that looks very good right now? They're playing very good complementary football. The defense looks a little bit better than they did last year. Can the Redskins, continue to make that progress and possibly pull off an upset here?
Yeah, I think this game will be a pretty high-scoring game. The Raiders defense, they did end up giving 20 points to the Jets. That was pretty surprising, but, that game was never in question, so they probably let up a little bit, just playing back, letting them complete underneath passes. But for me in this matchup, I'm going to have to go with the Raiders. That offense has been really dynamic, and I don't think the Redskins can keep up with them in a shootout.
Yeah, I'm going with the Raiders. The Raiders they're just stacked everywhere for me. And even though their defense still has a little bit of problems, I'll take a shootout with Derek Carr over Kirk Cousins any day of the week. So going to our last game here, the Monday night game, we got Cowboys versus Cardinals. This is an interesting one. The Cardinals have kind of gone out to an disappointing start of the season after coming off a very disappointing season last year. They've kind of continued that trend here, while the Cowboys are coming off a very embarrassing loss to the Denver Broncos and are looking to bounce back here. What do you see in this game?
Yeah, I think, the Cowboys, they just got embarrassed last week. So for me this week, I think they're going to come out really aggressive and hungry. I think Zeke's going to try to get back on track in this game. I think for the Cardinals, I just don't think this year is going to be their year. After losing David Johnson, who was such a big part of that offense, they got aging veterans like Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald, who they were trying to get one last Super Bowl ring with, but after losing him, it's just gone downhill. So for me in this game, I think the Cowboys are going to win, and I think they're going to win by a decent amount.
Yeah, Carson Palmer on that offense didn't really look that well last week against the Colts for 3 quarters until Palmer kind of put it together a pretty solid fourth quarter to pull out that victory. But I don't trust them against the Cowboys, where I think their offense is going to have a bounce back week going up against not as good of a defense as Denver's with the Cardinals here. So I'm going to take the Cowboys in this one. But that kind of concludes our week 3 previews. So let us know in the comment sections below, and let us know.
Yeah, let's keep this conversation going. Let us know what you're looking forward to in this week. If you agree with us, if you disagree with us, let us know in the comments below. And thank you guys so much for watching. Stay on tune for more videos coming out soon. And thanks for keeping up with us.